Our topic has to do with a controversial interview that Russell Brand had with the BBC. He was specifically talking to Jeremy Paxman, and during the interview, I will say that it seemed as though Russell Brand was being belittled a little bit, yes. But that is the type of way that he usually conducts his interviews, according to our UK viewers. Even if he does conduct his interviews that way, I still didn't appreciate the way he spoke to Russell Brand because I thought that he was making good points. I didn't like him being belittled, but I'm giving you guys too much, okay? Let's just watch a really quick clip, and then I'll give you more context.
Is it true you don't even vote?
Yeah, no, I don't vote.
Well, how do you have any authority to talk about politics then?
Well, I don't get my authority from this pre-existing paradigm, which is quite narrow and only serves a few people. I look elsewhere for alternatives that might be of service to humanity.
You don't believe in democracy. No, you want a revolution, don't you?
The planet is being destroyed. We are creating an underclass. We are exploiting poor people all over the world. And the genuine, legitimate problems of the people are not being addressed by our political class.
All of those things may be true. What's the scheme? You talk vaguely about revolution. What is it?
I think a socialist egalitarian system based on the massive redistribution of wealth, heavy taxation of corporations and massive responsibility for energy companies and any company that's exploiting the environment. I think they should be, I think the very concept of profit should be hugely reduced. Okay. David Cameron says profit isn't a dirty word. I say profit is a filthy word because wherever there is profit, there is also deficit. And this system currently doesn't address these ideas. And so why would anyone vote for it? Why would...
It got really hot in here. So I just want to make a quick point about a question that was asked. Paxman said, you don't believe in democracy, you want a revolution. There are revolutions in the name of democracy. Yes. So that question yes. in and of itself really frustrated me because yes. I would argue that our current democratic process is being violated right now. Our current democracy is yes. being destroyed right now. So to say you don't believe in democracy, you want a revolution, already puts you on the wrong side in my book. But anyway, and that's not to say that his other journalistic work has been terrible or bad. I'm sure he's done great work, but I didn't like the way he handled that interview. With that said, let's talk about the substance of what Russell Brand was saying in his answers. I thought that he made a lot of really great points about what's happening with corporations, the lack of taxation, the lack of regulation. I mean, those are issues that we've talked about on the Young Turks over and over again. But at the same time, he is basically saying that he does not vote. And he seems to encourage people to not vote because the current system is so broken. Sharon, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that it's a fascinating idea. In preparation of today, I did a little bit of research of the history of the non-vote. And there are several ways to participate in not voting. You can actually go to the polls and just not select anyone and turn in your ballot. And that makes a powerful statement. Mm-hmm. And this whole issue of voter apathy, what we've seen in this country, in my congressional district, in certain elections, we have voter turnout that is as low as 8%. Mm-hmm. So I think that is a real telling message. And what the message says to me is that we have a populace that is unengaged, apathetic, and has no confidence in our system. And I think that is a threat to democracy. It's a message that the politicians need to hear and that the media needs to hear. So I think that it's really important what Russell Brand was saying. We do need a shift and a redistribution. Absolutely. And one of the ways to send that message could possibly be by not voting.
Can I say that I agree with everything she said, and I just want to make it was very telling that the interviewer revealed himself, I think, a little in his question when he said, you know, well, what authority do you have to say these things? First of all, you don't need authority to say stuff. You don't need authority. It's called free speech. It's called democracy, like you said. So you don't need authority. So that's this whole guy's paradigm, is that you have to have authority. First, people have to say you have authority, be able to say something, and then for us to leave, you can't. So that was very revealing of that guy. And I'm not a huge Russell Brand fan. That seemed like a pretty good excuse of why he hadn't voted, or that whole thing of yes, that could be a reason why people aren't more engaged because they don't really feel like the system speaks to them. But the fact that he's not personally voting, I think that's not good. Those are just rationalizations for not being more involved. Mm-hmm. And
but I believe in the reasons why Russell Brand doesn't want to vote. I think that there are definitely, when it comes to low voter turnout, there are definitely people out there who are not engaged because they are apathetic. They just don't care about politics. They are not informed about it, and they don't feel comfortable voting. And then there are those who feel that the system is broken and their vote does not count. It's not going to make a difference. And I think that Russell Brand falls under that category. He's actually very politically engaged. I mean, I've seen his work before. I've seen many videos where he's done his political commentary, and I was just blown away by how intelligent and how informed he is. But the question is, I mean, I voted for Jill Stein in the last election. What did that get me? Dick, right? That didn't matter. I mean, we have a system right now, you know, with the Electoral College that doesn't really allow me to have my voice heard. So, and that's a big problem as well.
Well, we don't have, I would like to, you know, I think one of the solutions is maybe we get back to one man, one vote in America, which is not what we have right now, right? So if you live in Wyoming, your vote counts for about 66 times more than my vote counts for in California because of the disproportionate representation in the Senate. And if you notice, since 1900, there's been about 100 new democracies that have sprung up in the world. None of them use our system. They all use a parliamentary system.
Right.
So when you go back to the Electoral College, it's not only that, it's the way the Senate is set up. So we can get to a position where 70–80% of the people want something like gun control or a public option, and it doesn't even come close. And that's, so what happens when government isn't responsive to the people anymore, and we're having this kind of just a plutocracy is what's happening right now. So I don't mean to hog your time. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I agree with that, and I can also see the purpose of almost you're making a statement by not voting or by voting for a Jill Stein. The reason I wasn't 100% on board with what Russell Brand said about never voting, you know, I think you also have to take into account voting doesn't just mean in a presidential election. Voting also means on a lot of local levels. And when you have a more civically engaged populace, and I'm basing this off of, you know, I've lived in a few different places over the past few years. Some have been a little more civically engaged than others. You know, when you have a more civically engaged place, there's more things on the ballot, more initiatives that were brought forward, that were pushed through grassroots action and so forth. And to really get that through, that also involves showing up at the poll and casting your vote for a certain initiative. So when you're going to say, well, I'm never going to vote, I never vote, well, you're missing out on a lot of important opportunities.
So voting is one way to be civically engaged, but true civic engagement is more holistic. I mean, yes, you can vote, but you can be active on a particular issue. You can run for office, I mean, although it's difficult to see someone running for office who doesn't vote, but there are lots of ways to be civically engaged. And the lack of voter participation in this United States is a reflection of our lack of civic engagement. So I think what we really need to be talking about is, why is there a lack of civic engagement? Why is it that our politics is so irrelevant to so many people? And you, Jimmy, you just brought up two important points about, you talked about gun control and how we know that in the United States, the average person wants to have some kind of meaningful, smart gun control, yet we just can't seem to make that happen. So I think we know as a people that our voices are not being heard, no matter whether we vote or don't vote.
Yeah, and when it comes to low voter turnout, I think that there are many factors at play. We have a lack of quality media in the mainstream. We have distractions. People are much more interested in seeing what the Kardashians are doing as opposed to seeing what's happening with our government and some of the injustices that we're dealing with. And of course, we have those who feel that our system is broken and it doesn't matter whether or not they get politically involved. So these are all problems that we hope to address sometime in the future. We'll see if it happens. But I will say that in the past, you know, the one glimmer of hope to me was the Occupy movement, and of course we had the corporate media come in and stomp on that. So I hope that people do rise up, and I hope they do become more politically active, because that's really our only hope. And I love that people like Russell Brand use their celebrity to spread ideas like this, regardless of whether or not you believe in what he's saying.